Hey, what's up everyone? This is Brandon from BiggerPockets.com. I am here on my last day of my Hawaiian vacation. I'm here on the island of Kauai. And this week we did a webinar on the BRRRR strategy. In other words, using fixer-upper rental properties to generate possibly 6 figures in annual income. And it was a huge success. I think there was like 1,500 people there, something crazy like that. It was pretty awesome. And because there were so many people there, I did not get to all the questions. And so after I was all done, I went back and looked at some of the questions and I thought, there's a lot of good ones in here that I didn't get to. Maybe I will make a quick video for people and answer some more of those questions. So I'm going to cover 5 questions that I did not get to and make you look at this beautiful background while I tell you them. So y'all up for that? There's the beach, by the way, down there. Pretty, huh? All right, so question number 1 comes from Jerry. And Jerry asked, how does a refinance give you all your money back? All right, so let me give you a little preface on what he's talking about exactly in case you didn't watch the webinar for some reason. So we talked about the BRRRR strategy, which is where you buy a property, you rehab that property, you rent the property out, and then you refinance the property to get all or some or most of your money back out, and then you repeat it. So what do I mean by get your money back out? Well, here's an example of what I mean. Let's just say you found a property for $70,000. Now, don't worry about the number. It could be 700,000 or 7 million, doesn't matter. But let's say $70,000, and you were able to get a loan from a private lender or a hard money lender, or maybe you just did all cash, who knows? But let's say you got something for $70,000 for the purchase price. And then let's say you put in your own money, we'll say $30,000, maybe for the rehab cost. So you put in your own money for the rehab, and maybe borrowed $70,000 for the purchase. Now you're into the whole deal for $100,000. So the idea is if you were to go out and refinance that property and get a brand new loan, if you could get a loan for $100,000 for the total amount now, if you could get it for $100,000, you would essentially pay back the initial $70,000 loan and get your $30,000 cash back that you put into the deal. Or maybe you used a line of credit or whatever, or a partner, or whatever method you use. You can get that money back, so now you can go and repeat it, the final R of BRRRR. You can go and repeat that process and do it again and again. And that's pretty much how I've done every deal that I've done is I've used some kind of either private money, hard money, partnership, home equity line of credit, whatever, to do the initial purchase, and then I'll refinance that later. Now, speaking of refinance, question number 2 comes from, where was it? Chris. And Chris said, can you only refi if you have equity in a property? And I think that's a great question, and I probably should have covered that in the webinar, but can you only refi if you have equity? Sort of, yes. I mean, generally speaking, a bank is not gonna wanna refinance a property that doesn't have equity. Now, what banks look for is called the loan to value ratio. Loan to value, so write that down, loan to value ratio. And what that means is it's your loan amount, for example, $70,000 loan, compared to the value, whatever the value is, $100,000. So 70,000 divided by 100,000 is 70%. That would be a 70% loan to value, or LTV. Now, if you owed if you were trying to get a loan for 100,000 and it was only worth 100,000, a bank is not going to want to do a refinance for you because the bank's going to lose all their money. I mean, like potentially if you go bankrupt, they're going to lose a lot of money and have to try to foreclose on you. And basically the equity is what makes the bank feel safe enough to give you the loan. If you don't have any equity, you're going to be in trouble. Now, there are ways to do lower equity refinances and things. For example, some banks will do 10% or a 90% refinance, 90% LTV. If you're going to live in the property, you can get up to 3.5% down, equity or whatever you want to call that, 3.5% or 96.5% LTV refi with an FHA loan. So you can do that definitely, again, if you're going to live in the property. Otherwise, typically banks are going to want to see 20 to 30% equity before they're going to refinance it. So that's the key to the BRRRR strategy, is you've got to get that equity built in immediately. So it's kind of like flipping houses. You've got to know you're going to make a profit before you go into the deal. So to go back to the example we used a minute ago, that $70,000 property we bought, we put 30,000 into it, now we have 100 into it. We want to make sure that property is going to be worth at least, we'll say 140 or so, or maybe somewhere around there, in order to be able to refinance out. Now, when we got all finished with it, if it only appraised for 120, we can still do a refinance, but we might not get all our money back. Instead, we're going to be looking at maybe 70% of 120, which off the top of my head is, let's see, 12 and 12 is 24, 36 minus 120, what's that, 184 or 84? maybe. I'm trying to do that on top of my head sitting on a beach. But I think it's about $84,000 would be the 70%. So you maybe could get some of your money back in that case. And so then you'd have a loan for maybe 84, and your initial loan maybe was for 70, and you got back 14,000 of your own cash. Now that's not really, that's kind of a simplistic definition because we're not talking about closing costs or anything like that. But anyway, that's how equity works in a refinance. So next question comes from Vic. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Oh, before I get Vic's question, I do want to also address, if you guys are interested in upgrading to BiggerPockets Pro, if you've not done so already, I did get out a discount code. I gave out one on the webinar. The code was 303, and that expires on Monday evening. So make sure you guys upgrade before then, and you get 20% off, plus you get a digital copy of the book on low and no money down investing, and the audio book of that one. You get the conference audio from our 2012 conference, which is a $300 value, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Plus you can watch replays of all the past webinars, and there's a ton of them. If you're a pro member already, go to biggerpockets.com/pro replay to watch those old webinars. You'll love them. All right, so back to Vic's question. Vic said, how much does a good property manager cost, and how many properties does it take to make it worthwhile? Great question, Vic. So typically, there is no typical price for a property manager. No, just kidding. There kind of is. Most property managers in my area, and this might be a little bit area specific, in my area, most of them are going to charge right around 10% for a property, 10% of the rent. So if the rent is $1,000 a month, they're going to charge $100. That's very, very normal in my area. I could probably find one to go maybe 9 or 8%, but that's pretty typical for like a single family house or a small multifamily or something like that. Now, as you get larger properties, you can sometimes get that down. Economies of scale, you can maybe get that down to 3, 4, 5%, but then you might have to have an on-site manager or an on-site maintenance person. It gets a little more complicated with the bigger deals, but I would probably estimate around 10%, but again, that's in my area, and your area might be different. So just call up a couple property managers and ask them, hey, what do you charge for property management services? And they'll tell you, nice and easy. So now the second half of your question was, how many properties does it take to make it worthwhile? Well, honestly, you could do it with one, because it's a percentage of the rent. It's not like a flat charge, like we charge you $1,000 a month for managing all your properties. It's a percentage. So if you have one property, if you want to have management for it, great. In fact, I recommend everybody at least budget for management. And then if you're going to pay yourself as a manager. And then that way someday when you no longer want to manage, you can hire someone else to do it with that money you're paying yourself. So budget into a property management from day one, your very first property. Now, when should you get a property manager? That I couldn't tell you. I've got 40 some properties right now. We still manage our own, but we have some help now. We have a kind of an office lady who does a lot of the paperwork and are answering phone calls, showing units, things like that. And I have a maintenance guy now who does a lot of stuff as well. So it's kind of like I'm built my own at that point. I think reasonably you could probably manage a dozen, maybe a couple dozen houses on your own. If you had a full-time job, you could probably make that work. It'd probably get a little stressful after a dozen, but it depends on how good you are at systems and how good you are at managing other people to do stuff for you. So hope that helps, Vic. Next question. Let's go to, okay, Dave asked, what are the differences for a BRRRR strategy for a 5+ unit? In other words, a commercial property, like maybe an apartment complex. Great question. So the idea behind the BRRRR, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, it works the exact same way with a larger property. For example, my 24-unit apartment complex, I bought it for $565,000. I put a little over $60,000 of work into the deal, and then I went and refinanced it a few years later, and I got it appraised for $920-something thousand or whatever it was, and so then I took out a new loan for $650,000. Now, if that confused you, just rewind this and listen to that again. But essentially what I did is I did the exact BRRRR property. Now, a couple things to just keep note of. On larger properties, they value them differently. Larger properties are valued based on, a variety of things, but primarily the income and expenses that come in and out. In other words, you look at the total, net revenue that the property makes, and you use a cap rate to figure out the value. And if you're interested more in that, just search what is a cap rate on BiggerPockets up in the search bar. You'll find out more all about that. In fact, I wrote a really long post about that a while back about how to use cap rates. So if you're interested in that, look up more information on that. But the cool thing about that is this, and this is what makes BRRRR for multifamilies work really, really well, is that because it's based on the revenue or the profit, really, it's based on the profit that comes in. Because of that, when you increase the profit, you increase the value. So how did I get my apartment complex from, in fact, I actually overpaid for it when it was based on the income, because when I bought the thing, it was half empty and it was just run down. So how did I get the value up to almost $1 million? Well, I raised the rent from an average of $475, and now we're averaging $550. So I increased the income. I decreased the expenses during that time as well, is some of them by fixing a lot of water leaks and things like that. So overall, the value of the property went up because the profit went up. And so when you can find a multifamily, a 5+ unit that is a little bit needs rent to be raised and has a lot of units that are kind of gross, and you could probably get a lot higher rent and decrease expenses, the BRRRR strategy works really well in those cases. But again, that's commercial real estate. It's a little more complicated, so do some research into that. I recommend, if you want to know more about that, read The ABCs of Real Estate Investing by Ken McElroy. Also, there's a book called what's it called? Buying and Selling Apartment Buildings by Steve Burgess, B-E-R-G-E-S. I think that's how you spell his name. Excellent book on commercial real estate. Both those are really, really good. Ken McElroy has a sequel to the ABCs of Real Estate called The Advanced Guide to Real Estate Investing. Also excellent. So all three of those books are really, really good. I highly recommend them. Let's see. I also talk about it in the book on rental property investing, which if you've not read that, you probably should. Get it at BiggerPockets.com/rental book, or you get it on Amazon. All right. Last question of the day comes from Paul. And before I get to that, I will say one more time, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for showing up to the webinar if you did, or watching the replay. If you have not watched the replay yet, the replay is live until Monday evening. Then it comes down and it's only available for pro members. So if you're interested in watching the webinar, make sure you watch it before Monday evening. Monday is the 7th? I'm not even sure what the date is. I'm in Hawaii. I don't keep track of days. I just know today is Sunday that I'm recording this. So, all right, last question comes from Paul. Paul said, how do you rehab a property if there's still tenants in it? Good question, Paul, and maybe I probably just glossed over this. If you're buying a property and then you want to rehab it and then rent it out again, I'm kind of making the assumption you're going to buy it vacant. If it's not vacant, you're probably going to want to wait till the tenants either move out, or you can maybe kick them out if it's at the end of their lease or something like that and you don't have any legal reasons why you can't do that. You can, I'd wait till they're gone. I mean, if you buy a property, there's tenants in there, honestly, I'd probably just manage the property, fix up maybe the outside, do what you can in the meantime, and then deal with it later on, when you can deal with raising the rent when they leave, or just raise the rent while they're there, or just wait to rehab it until later. So not every property needs to be rehabbed either. I mean, you can buy some properties and they're already good. You just get a good enough deal on one that doesn't need a lot of work. Great. Sometimes you can just paint the outside. So again, hopefully that helps you there, Paul. And yeah, again, I'm gonna head out and go back to enjoying my vacation. My wife is over there sun tanning somewhere, and this is our last day, and I'm out of here. This week, I'm going to be heading to Tennessee to speak at a meetup in Franklin, Tennessee. So if you're around Franklin on Wednesday morning, make sure you come hang out with me there. We'll be talking about how to quit your job through real estate. And we'll also be talking about that on next week's webinar. Very similar topic. So if you go to BiggerPockets.com/webinar, you can sign up for that there. And last time I'll say this, if you're interested in upgrading to Pro to get all those discounts, it's on Pro Annual, all those bonuses and all that good stuff. You can do so at BiggerPockets.com/pro upgrade, and make sure you use coupon code 303 to get all those cool stuff. Again, Pro Annual 303, you'll save $58 plus you get like $500 in bonuses, but you got to do it by Monday night. So if you have any questions or whatever, jump on the BiggerPockets forums and ask them. There are people there that can help you. There are people far smarter and far more experienced than I am. So go in there, ask them on the forums, talk to them, ask questions, see what you can find out. So I guess that's probably all I got for you today. I got 13 minutes into this thing, so I'll let you guys go. Have a great day. I know I'm going to have a fantastic day. I went skydiving yesterday, and today I'm going to take the red-eye flight home. That won't be so fun. But I'll see you guys later. For BiggerPockets.com, my name is Brandon, signing off.